contact with aliens? Were you taken to another planet, to a mothership? How did they communicate with... Can you tell me what they look like? Can you tell me how many of them there were? Were you given food?
But the teachers are alive. They're not books. They are the very living essences of nature itself.
What a strange person.
Unbelievably powerful supercomputer that's running our reality, and we don't have a clue as to how to operate it.
So when maybe you or somebody else creates an AGI system and you get to ask her one question, what would that question be?
What's outside the simulation?
Say in your mind, say to yourself, I am more than my physical body, because I am more than physical matter. I can perceive that which is greater than the physical world.
Do not know all the answers to the questions about reality. Do not claim to know the ultimate truth about life. I seek that which has been made hidden as a part of a family and explorers of consciousness. Unavoidable.
Welcome to Lighting the Void.
Broadcasting from New York, upstate, near the Great Lakes, it's Lighting the Void, and I'm your host, Joe Roop, and we are live on Fringe.fm, KTLK Digital Broadcasting. Back again. It's Wednesday night, May the 12th on into the 13th, and if this is your first time listening to the broadcast, wherever you're listening from across the World Wide Web, you are listening to the live version. If it's May the 13th, 2021, or May the 12th, it's live, raw, and uncut. I mean, we got a red button, but I do the uncut. The call-in number for tonight's 1-800-588-0335. If you want to join our chat room, you can go to fringe.fm/chat room or click on the Discord banner right in fringe.fm. If you want to support our show, you can go to lightingthevoid.com and make a one-time donation, grab something from the shop, or join the Patreon. You can do like Allie did and just grab you a t-shirt or something for the summer, man. We got bathing suits, towels, tank tops, what I call overpriced socks. We got it all in there. So grab something and support, you know. Or you could do like I did, just go get a Voidwalker tattoo. That would be epic. Anybody that does that, I'm going to send them a whole bunch of swag, by the way, just in case somebody's crazy enough besides me to do that. I've got some bad news. Unfortunately, I have to shout out this. I don't like shouting out bad news, but this is pretty important. Our brother from another mother and Fringe late night host Gigi from Shift Happens is in the hospital. So, and he's not doing too good. So if we can all send our prayers out, and whatever you pray to, whatever God you pray to, whatever source, whatever, just please send your prayers out to Gigi because he needs it right now. Alrighty. I don't know the details, so don't ask. I don't really know. I just know he's in the hospital and he's not doing too good, and that's all I know. I've been updated recently about that. So yeah, not fun delivering that news, but we'll keep you posted, and all our hearts are with Gigi right now. Hopefully he'll get out of there. All right. So tonight, speaking of which, it kind of is a good wordplay. When you do prayer, you do good words of affirmation. So tonight we're going to talk about word magic, because we talk about magic on this broadcast. So if you're not into magic or the occult or manifestations or even wonder about it, then maybe you should stick around, because it's probably a lot more than you think, right? It's probably something cool about it that you don't know about. You could definitely learn something tonight. Sorry, I got a phone call. So here's the thing. I'm hoping at this point when we talk about magic that we aren't afraid of it. It doesn't necessarily mean anything crazy, because we don't know anything about it. The reason why it's called magic is because we don't understand it, right? That's about it. That's all. It's simply, we just don't understand it. It's probably a science that we don't understand yet, but we're getting closer. But word magic, what I mean specifically by that, it could be, is to me, and we're going to be talking to our guest, Laurel Airica, tonight. She's going to be coming on here just shortly to speak to us from wordmagicglobal.com. But to me, it simply means formulas, right? Things that you say where you manifest things into your life. And we do this day in and day out. And I'm sure you've heard me say before that we're all practicing magic. But there are few practicing magicians, right? And all that means is awareness, first and foremost, becoming aware that you are manifesting your reality. You are creating your reality. I do it all the time. I'm guilty of it too. So I'm not trying to come to you from some kind of guru thing. I'm sitting in the seat watching the TV with you, right? The TV of reality. But what I do know is specifically what happens in my life in either a positive or a negative way. I can say things like, every time I go to this restaurant, they always put mayonnaise on my hamburger. Something like that, right? Every time A equals B, every time A plus B equals C. It's really weird. I've noticed that, and I've journaled about it too, that when we do that, it kind of perpetuates. It doesn't change until we change it. But what else are we saying to ourselves daily, right? Because in hermetics and in magic, we know that everything starts in the mind. Everything starts in the mind. Everything that you do, your emotions, the thought starts in the mind, obviously. Your actions, everything gets triggered from there. So it sounds bad, but a lot of times, especially if you're me or an Aries, or if you have like Aries and Mercury or whatever, if you just you don't think before you speak, that's how I am. You can get a little mindless, and you can say things and manifest things that you don't really want. Now, here's the big thing. If you have a thought coupled with an emotion and a visualization, that's great. That's like an amplification of what you're trying to bring into reality, right? But the second you speak it along with that, you just put it out there in an even more powerful way. And if any of you guys have looked into the stuff that I talk about with the old Golden Dawn stuff, it's all the rituals in there are vibration. But to get deeper into this, why are languages so magical? Why is there so much power to them? If you've ever heard, you go to a Catholic church and you hear them doing mantras in Latin, or you hear some magicians do magic in Hebrew or Greek, or the Native Americans or shamanistic magicians. So there's something magical about it, right? But what about the English language? What about the English language, right? Why do we throw that out? Here's a question for you, and here's just a what if. What if the English language is the most, I'm not saying this is just a what if, but what if it's the most powerful magical language on the planet right now? What if it's the most, at least in America or whatever, what if it's the most evolved from all the other languages. If you ever study etymology and you look up a word in English, it has all these different meanings and sounds from different languages. Put together, English is the what I'm saying is like the latest, most evolved kind of language. So why do we not think that it's not magical? Because most of you know that it is. And what is it about the letters of the alphabet? You know, if you look up Gnostics, any Gnostic literature, you'll hear them do vibrations of vowel sounds. E-I-O or E-I-O-A-U. These are what the Gnostics do. They vibrate vowels. And it's really strange. Why do they do that? What do they represent? Well, I don't know what Laurel's going to speak about, but I do know in the Golden Dawn that E-I-O or I-A-O means a lot of different things. It means Isis, Apophis, Osiris. It means, death, birth, resurrection. Isis, Apophis, Osiris. You hear it sounded out in the Rose Cross ritual and the ritual of the hexagram, things like that. These things go way back. And if you also study the Greek magical papyri, there is a ton of Greek in there, a ton of demotic language too. And I've taken Gordon White's course on that stuff, and it's very important how you pronounce it. I can remember back when I was in kindergarten, and we were learning to sound out the letters, the alphabet. And my teacher, her name was Miss Caldwell. Now, you know, the older I get, some of these memories, they get more faint, and I forget about them. But I remember going in there at 5 years old, and the first thing we started doing was learning how to sound out letters. And we had not stuffed, what am I thinking? They were like letter dudes, like Mr. A, and they would blow it up, and it would be like this blow up Mr. A, and we'd sing songs and sing about Mr. A, and then start pronouncing words that start with A, and we do that for a week, and then the next week it would be Mr. B, and then Miss Caldwell will have these blow up things, you know, with like a Mr. B character. Wouldn't it be cool that at that point you were learning to become a creator? What if this whole language thing was not just about communicating so that we understand each other, but what if deep down it was really training you to learn how to create or manifest your physical reality? How many times have you done this in your life, right? Like, how many times has something happened to you and you say, man, I wish I wouldn't have said that. I just got through saying that. Or I said that if I would buy this lottery ticket, I'm never going to win. Or if I went to this gas station, I would always pump over. Or I don't know, maybe it's just me, but every time something happens, I always think, man, I just got through, or something weird happens, I'll say, man, I just got through talking about that. I just got through talking about that. This happens with synchronicity too. Have you ever been in deep conversation with somebody that you really care about? And I'll get into that in a second too. And the next day it happens, right? Like, or something kind of, this just super synchronicity happens, an event happens, somebody steps into your life, or a song comes on the radio, or a movie pops up, whatever, but you know that you were just talking about it, and you call it a coincidence, something that coincides, and it's not a coincidence. It's not. In fact, I believe that if you really knew how much you were creating your reality, it would freak you out. It would freak you right out. If you really knew how much your thoughts and your emotions, and especially your words, and especially when you put them all together, are creating your reality. This is why people study Zen and meditation, to try to clear the mind. And I mean clear it and get it into nothingness so they can control the thoughts. Because I have a hard time controlling just words. If you can't tell, I just start talking. When you do a radio show, if you're a super professional, which I'm trying to get there, but you write out everything that you're supposed to do. You do your research, you write out your outline, you even do scripts. They have people called broadcast writers, producers that do all this stuff, you know. And if you ever notice somebody that does a show like that, there's something really effective about it versus maybe somebody like me that just blabs and blabs, you know. But I think it's important that we slow down sometimes before we speak. I'm almost 40 years old and I'm still trying to master that because I can have an emotion, especially if they're super intense, whether it's really good and loving or really high and angry. I have the hardest time keeping my mouth shut during those moments. Think about that. If words are so powerful that silence speaks more. Like, I'll give you an example, like right now. Just is your brain spinning, wondering what I'm going to say? How can silence be so powerful? If silence is powerful, then just how powerful are words? Frederick Xavier does this course that I think all of you guys should go get, and it's very affordable. It's only like $20, and you should also go to Laurel's site too, because she gets really extensive into this, right? But Frederick Xavier has a course called Words of Power, where he gets really deep into the subject about how powerful words can be. And he talks about the English language too. And it was one of the first courses I ever took on magic or anything. One of the first. And it really, I think, to be honest with you, it was really when I first started getting into it that I realized just how powerful things are. A word or a vowel, even vowels. How can vowels be powerful? Just a vowel. I don't want to, I'm going to do something myself with this, but I want you to think about some of the things that you've said in your life and just ask yourself, how did they affect another person? Especially if it was somebody that you loved or that loved you. If you love somebody, right, and they say something that cuts deep or hurts you deep, if you don't think it's powerful, you're sadly mistaken. You know how some people say actions speak louder than words, right? But sometimes words are just as much and just as powerful as actions. Most, in fact, I'll tell you from a psychological standpoint, most of your sorrow and most of your unhappiness comes from the trauma that you experienced as an inner child. And this is kind of a bad example, but I'm just trying to use it as an example to how powerful words can be. If you were verbally neglected or abused as a child, it will carry out, if you don't take care of it and heal it, that is, it will carry out the span of your entire life and cause lots of negativity in your life. The first time that your loving parent scolds you or tells you that you're not good enough or whatever, most of us don't remember how bad that hurt, but it was traumatizing. And some of us, and I even know some people that have been traumatized as teenagers by words. You can literally, or turn it the other way around, you can literally change someone's life, children especially, by encouragement, confidence, encouraging words and loving words of self-esteem. Not only that, they've already done the experiments with water crystals. So what does that say about the magic of words? You remember the other day when I was talking about, like, you're a product of your environment? It's true. If you're around people, the 5 people that you're around the most are the most negative, self-loathing, lack mindset type of people, negative people. No matter how positive you are, eventually that environment is going to take you over unless you change an environment. It's just the way it is. You're just like the water crystal. So this hermetic thing works both ways. It's important that you understand what's coming out of your mouth, I believe. Now, we're really going to get into this because our guest knows way more about this than I do. But it's very important because what comes out of your mouth is what represents the magical, creative side of you. It's everything in you. It's your expression of you. What if you realized that? How true that was for a moment. It's not what I take in. I think there's a Bible verse about this too. It's not what I take in, see, hear, or whatever. It's what comes out of my mouth. It's the energy that I put out there that either makes me or breaks me, that either causes a happiness in my life or causes sorrow, or causes happiness in other people's life or causes sorrow. I did not know this. This is something that I learned this past year by having people that I met, new people that I met that were really close to me, that I either made them feel very good with my words or destroyed them and hurt them. I didn't, I would say, oh, you're being dramatic or whatever, but you don't realize what your words do to people, especially if there's love there. You don't care honestly, do you care what Donald Trump says? Magically, yeah, he's creating a reality. Do you care what Biden says? No. Think about this for a second, though. How much does it affect you and somebody that loves you, what they say? It brings up those childhood things, right? So if you were raised good and you had a good mama and a good father and a loving family, not saying anybody's perfect, you'll notice, right, that those people have a little bit healthier lives, healthier relationships. They're products of their environment. We call it magic because I don't think we understand it yet, but we can't see this metaphysical realm, so it is magical. And as a radio host, I've started to realize that spewing out the mouth sometimes isn't the greatest thing, right? So I'm learning this too as I go along this with you, right? That I have to figure out how to be better with my words because there's true magic behind them. There's real magic behind them, right? So what we're going to do, we're going to take our break and then we're going to come back with our guest, Laurel Airica. And you can go check out the website, wordmagicglobal.com, and listen to, during the break, if you don't want to listen to the commercials, listen to some of the stuff on the website. And we're really going to dig into this deeper when we come back from the break. There's more Lighting the Void coming up. We'll open the phone lines up later. Keep that call-in number handy, 1-800-588-0335. Stay with us.
talk radio, then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7 with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on mobile with any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
The truth is out there, and so are we. KTLK, Digital Broadcasting, The Fringe FM.
Want to support Lighting the Void? Just go to lightingthevoid.com, sign up on our membership page and pick your package where you can get exclusive content, readings, and exclusive behind-the-scenes content. Also, check out the LTV shop where you can get your very own altar box, t-shirt, shack, hoodie with sigil, Roswell-style t-shirt, racerback tees, socks, long-sleeve shirts, stickers, and beanies. Keep Lighting the Void airing 5 nights a week by going to lightingthevoid.com and support today.
Hey, is that a new music app?
Yeah, check it out. Surfer Music Discovery. It links to thousands of online stations, but the twist is you see the song names and artists that are now playing live.
That's different. No guessing. Looks like a waterfall of music.
So many formats. Rock, oldies, country, R&B, jazz, and a whole lot more.
How's that spelled?
Surfer. S-U-R-F-R.
Is it expensive?
It's free. No need to sign up or sign in.
Get the Surfer Music app free from Google Play or the App Store.
Telepath is a weekly digital newsletter filled with the latest paranormal news, trending topics, and fresh articles from some of the most popular critical thinkers in the community today. Stay informed on your favorite paranormal podcasts and live streaming talk shows. Interact with the Telepath and upload your paranormal story or pics. It could be featured in an upcoming edition. Sign up right now for the free Telepath newsletter at paranormal.radio. That's paranormal.radio.
Lighting the Void and the Esoteric Scholar present the Altar Box, crafted and designed for magicians by magicians. Now you can take your practice with you. This beautifully handcrafted mobile altar opens and works as an altar for any of your spiritual, religious, or ritual practices. Made to travel and work in small spaces, the Altar Box comes with hidden compartments for your practice tools and accessories. The Altar Box also comes with a dark scrying mirror for scrying and reverses and fits perfectly also as a chalkboard for any sigil, symbol, or whatever you see fit to sketch. The Altar Box was handcrafted to carry as a small suitcase, so you may take your practice with you, and the hinges are made with solid material and hinged with leather and rivets for extra strength. The mirror piece and floor plate fit perfectly when closed, so no movement will happen. Use it in small places as well. You can practice meditation, magic, planetary magic, sigil magic, scrying, ritual. Never be without your practice tools again, no matter the setting or where you go. Just go to lightingthevoid.com/altarbox and get yours while the sale lasts.
To the questions about reality. I do not claim to know the ultimate truth about life. I seek that which has been made hidden as a part of the family of explorers of consciousness. I am a void walker. Hey, this is Macon, and you're listening to Lighting the Void with Joe Root.
Welcome back to Lighting the Void. I'm your host, Joe Roop. Like I said, we'll open the phone lines up here shortly, 1-800-588-0335. We're going to jump right into the broadcast. Don't forget that we're still doing the event February 2022 in northern Arizona in the Petrified Forest there. It's going to be cool. The spots are limited, though. They have camping spots. They have private bedrooms, the common area. If you go to grimerica.ca or go to events or lightingthevoid.com, you can go to the events there. Make sure you grab a spot before it sells out, because those fellas always sell that event out real quick. I'll be speaking there with Owen Hunt and Brandon Powell. All right. I think that's it with announcements. So we're going to bring in our guest here. Laurel Airica is here with us. The website, again, is wordmagicglobal.com. And she has cultivated a heightened sensitivity to how, over the course of her life, she has cultivated a heightened sensitivity to how the total normality of insanity in society is echoed, reflected, and reinforced by the English language, which inadvertently, yet unavoidably, propagates the antiquated and manipulated vision of reality promulgated by the church and other institutions as an instrument of mind control at a time when people had to surrender their minds if they wanted to keep their heads about them, quite literally. Concurrently, however, because language is not merely grammatical, but holo-grammatical, she says, as well, and because words emerge and the convergence of consciousness and culture there are also naturally occurring expressions of innate human wisdom that illuminate the way forward. If we can but notice and follow these secret passwords pointing toward our liberation. Again, it's wordmagicglobal.com. Thank you so much, Laurel, for coming on the broadcast. It's good to have you here.
Well, I'm delighted to have an opportunity to speak with you and your audience, Joe. Thank you.
You're very welcome. And I'm all about magic in every single way, but as a talk show host, word magic is something that I definitely want to talk about, because that's all I do is talk. And I don't think we really understand how powerful the words are, but I would like to hear your story as to how you yourself got into really doing this and studying this stuff.
Well, I started when I was about 2 or 3 years old. And I said to my parents, maybe at 3 or 4, that I bet I now know all the words in the English language. And I just had this sense of fascination with words. And there was and I've written a piece called Rites of Passion, about an elemental being who goes through the looking glass into this dimension and has to deconstruct the language to find her way back home again. And so just as Alice in Wonderland went in pursuit of a white rabbit, I went in pursuit of a bat, because someone told me a bat had flown out of the box delivering my father's sound system, and that it had flown into a tree in the backyard. And we were in a little desert town with not many trees. So I stood in front of this scrawny tree expecting to see a bat hanging from it. But my expectation was of a baseball bat. And somehow, at least in my memory, as I put it together, that was how it began, this recognition that words that have no relationship to each other could have the same name. And so I started playing with words and discovering fascinating things about them, putting together words that seem to have no relationship but sound. So these are called homonyms, and they're people use them, they call them puns, and they use them to make jokes about things, but they actually turn out to have a whole lot more significance than just a funny joke. And so I took them seriously because I found so many of them. And in that process, just this understanding built in me about a whole other level on which words communicate to us. And it's kind of like walking through, as we speak, we're walking through a mind field. There's all sorts of subliminal explosions that affect us on a subliminal level. And yet they're right out in the open, but because we're deaf to our definitions, and we are not of sound mind when it comes to hearing words. We are told to watch what we say, but not to listen. And when we listen, there is this other level of communication going on. And so people usually find my work via the YouTube video I posted in 2010 called The Secret Spells of the English Language. And I can go through that very quickly because it's a good window into the perspective that I offer through my work.
Yeah, sure.
Thank you. So I share what I call our premier life sentence. And it goes this way. We awake each morning and go off during the weekdays to earn our living at various jobs and undertakings until we come to the weekend. And everyone agrees that that's the normal way of things. Only more people die of heart failure between 6 and 10 a.m. Monday morning than any other time of the week. So I explained that what I do is a translation of the English language, and I spell that word Trance with the idea that words cast spells and put us in a linguistic-based trance state. So when you translate that life sentence, you remember that awake is a funeral party for the dead. And mourning is the state we're in when we attend awake. So when we say to someone, good morning, on another level, we're essentially saying to them, good grief. And we would have to be staggering around in a zombie-like state to earn, through the days of the week, staggering around in a days to earn the living, since urns are vases for the ashes of the dead. And we call our jobs undertakings. And job itself is a Hebrew word for persecuted.
Yeah.
And what you get at the end of this perverse bargain with life is progressively weakened. So when we say to someone, have a good weekend, I think that's almost like a gut punch on a subliminal level, because it's about such a diminishment. And so we call a 10-year period of this a decade, and many in Britain call it a decade. And our most frequent greeting to each other is hello. And if you reverse those syllables, it becomes oh hell.
So do you, because I've this is really fascinating to me. I'm a practice ceremonial magic and I'm pretty fluent with like Hebrew and Latin and stuff. And I use that stuff in my incantations and things like that. But what I'm getting from this is it kind of sounds like that the English language is a spell in itself in a way.
It is. It is. And because words emerge at the convergence of consciousness and culture, there are what I call the secret spells that reflect the cultural spell, but there's also, I've termed them sacred pathwords because they reflect and echo our innate wisdom as divine beings in human form. So one of my favorite sacred pathwords is the word earth. And if you move the H from the end to the beginning, you have the word heart. So I've asked some children on various occasions what they think the significance of the earth-heart connection is. And one little child of 7 said, well, maybe the earth is the heart of the solar system. And another child said, well, the earth is the heart of our lives. And so anyone can go from punster to pundit, not in the television newscaster sense, but in the Sanskrit sense of a wise man, a wise woman, because just by playing with words, they unlock the innate wisdom within our own consciousness. And for instance, that earth heart paradigm, to me, what it means is that the first and foremost antidote to a global warming of the earth is a global warming of the heart, so that we share our resources, and that our essential evolutionary leap as a species is from humankind to human kindness. And I believe that through wordplay, we can liberate our consciousness, awaken our awareness to the wisdom innate within us, and collectively tune up the English language sound system by tweaking certain words. Like, for instance, I said to a group of people, what do you think we should do about the fact that our greeting to each other is hello? And one woman said, well, what about hallow? And to hallow is to make something sacred and to honor it. So, so from early childhood, playing with words, looking at how they're spelled, looking at the significance that might be in these symbols that we collect into the alphabet, I saw that there is this potential for us to recognize language as software and English as the leading software of the Western mind. And as you know, through your ceremonial magic and the languages that you incorporate, these sounds have tremendous power and influence.
Yeah.
And we mostly, as a culture, have been very casual in shooting off our mouths,
Right.
and being so unaware. And yet there is the power of all creation, if we are to believe not only the Bible, but the Genesis myths of many cultures of the East and West.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I found it fascinating when I was studying, and you're probably aware of this too. Some of the Gnostic literature and Coptic literature, and how they would adore and do incantations to God by simply just sounding out vowel sounds, right? You know, like E-I-O or E-I-O-U, and it you don't think a vowel sound has that much power, but
Yes.
it definitely does, right? And I know that you have a book on this on your website. I think people can get the book. I think it's called the Book of E, right? If they
Yes.
sign up with their email. Can you tell me about that?
Well, the Book of E is that the subtitle is a book of alphabet alchemy. And so I just started playing with the letter E because it's the most frequently used letter in the alphabet.
Sure.
And it all began according to our stories, it all began in Eden with Eve.
Right. Yeah.
And then there was evil, and then there was evolution. And E continues to have tremendous significance. So I looked at it graphically because it has two forms. For instance, there's a capital E, which is one vertical line and three parallel horizontal lines. And then there's the small e, which looks rather like an eye. It's kind of the shape of an eye. And if you look at the word eyes, E-Y-E-S, you see that we have yes in our eyes, and which to me means we are meant to say yes to life. Yesterday, yes today, and yes tomorrow. And we are meant to see for ourselves, and see is a Spanish word for yes. And the word A-Y-E, I, is also about yes. So it really puts our own individual vision in the affirmative and our identity. And what makes us unique is that we each stand in our own point in space and have a unique perspective. And I'm going to be posting tomorrow an article called When We Look But Do Not See. illustrated graphically. And so it's letter play and word play, and it's all very illuminating. So the Book of E is a really fun book I put together a few years ago, and I deal with a lot of metaphors. I point out that everyone wants to live with ease, and it's funny. I came across the word cocaine from the Middle Ages. It's spelled a little different, but it was like the poor people's vision of paradise, a land of ease, and where all needs are met without struggle. And the pinnacle of mountain climbing is to reach the top of Everest, whereas the capital of capitalism is Mount Rushmore. So we're looking, and then sickness is dis-ease. So E has a lot of implications for us. And when I was completing this book, which is free to subscribers, just sign up on my website and you can download the Book of E. And toward the end of it, I'd kind of run out of words that begin with a E sound, and then elope popped into my head. And so I wrote this little brief poem that says, "Let us all elope together as the lovers we were always meant to be. Let's leave behind all interferences that left us blind to our own and each other's sacred human majesty. As I become my wholesome self, I ask that you be you to full, for we are each like no one else, and together can make miracles."
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, you see the magic in that too. Like you can see, I've tried to talk about this before, when you get into ceremony or prayer or even poetry, like you just did there's a magic to it. There's this thing that happens where you're taking like the right side of your brain, which is the creative, expressive, magical side of yourself, and corresponding it with the software formulations of like letters and numbers and all this place, and it comes together and it creates, magically, right? And so that's why I think the vowel sounds are so kind of like popular, because they're really expressive. I mean, if you look at a baby, right? A baby, before it learns any language, will make, most of the time, it'll do consonants and just blah, 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 but you can tell simply by how it's expressing itself, even in vowels sometimes, where they just say E or dad, dad, dad. You can just tell, like, how they feel. You can feel the vibration of what they feel, right? So I don't want to take this to a negative place, but I do wonder just how much we put barriers on our life too by the things that we say,
Oh, absolutely. We are casting our fate as we speak. We are literally sentencing ourselves. But I also want to share something I wrote a while back called Rearranging the Vowels in Poetical Order. And it's just a simple place. And it begins by pointing out that a vowel, this is a pun, is defined as an open statement of affirmation. And many of us are coming to see just how powerful an affirmation can be. A-E, A-E, A-E is an ancient word for magic, from a time when people knew the potent power of spells and rites. Placing AE, a small unit of magic, in front of IOU is a way of spelling perpetual indebtedness of one to another, which is cosmically correct, but financially impoverishing. If instead we place AE before OUI, we avow the I that is we, spelling the I, AYE, which is a word for yes, that is we, O-U-I, the French word for yes. And the we, so it's the we that is us, which unites and affirms our individuality and indivisibility. Thus, A-E-O-U-I may be a vowel for our mutual prosperity.
Oh, wow. That's awesome. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. So, and some people in the chat room are asking if you have like books. We talked about the book you can get at the website, wordmagicglobal.com, if you just sign up with your email. But you also have Word Magic, wordplay that puts a new spin on the world, that you can get through Amazon and Spotify.
Well, it's not
right?
really through Amazon. People,
they find it on Amazon, right? But
well, I don't know if they can. You may find Horsing Around, the inside word on marriage and horses, on Amazon, if they still have any left. I have maybe a dozen left. It's a big picture book that shows the relationship of our marriage and horses, like the groom and the bridal path and horsing around. Anyway, so there are very few left, but these are available through my website under books.
At wordmagicglobal.com. Well, I guess
Yes.
I got confused. I meant to talk about your audio that's on Spotify and iTunes, your Word Magic audio there.
Yes. Well, that's from the book. I put together a collection of my verse. Well, just to back up a moment,
Sure.
I wrote in the 80s, I wrote a thesis called Psychosemantics, English in Translation. And I took it to the editor at a publishing house, who said, this is all very interesting, but without a PhD, you can forget about getting it published. So a few years later, I was a student of Reverend Michael Bernard Beckwith of the Agape Church, and I was also his editor at the time. And I wrote a piece in response to a class he was leading, in which we were supposed to express what this closer walk with God meant to us. And so I wrote a poem called First Person Singular. I recited it at a public event, and a record company executive said, would you like to do an album of your verse? So I ultimately turned everything I'd learned about language into wordplay verse. And so the book, A Word Magic, Wordplay That Puts a New Spin on the World, is a book and a CD, and it's a collection of poems from different suites I've written that illuminate the perspective that I offer. And that is also offered through the store on my website, and people pay through PayPal, and then I send them the book and CD. I'm going to be a little more modern with a new book that will come out soon. I have a book on a poem on the letter S. It's currently the animation for it is being completed. And that I'm going to offer first, most likely to patrons on my Patreon page for a $10 contribution for the first month or so. The poem is called Esoterica by Laurel Airica, the definitive exegesis on the letter S in verse. And the word exegesis is like an in-depth examination, usually of a biblical passage, but I did. And so I'm being humorous here, like who else would do an exegesis on a single letter and then to do it in verse? But anyway, it has so many layers of implication that I'm having it illustrated, and it will then also become an illustrated book, a golden book for awakened and awakening souls, based on the magic in the symbols and sounds of the language.
So interestingly enough, and I know we're at the top of the hour, we got to take a break, but I think it's really cool that someone is really expressing in very cool, articulate ways in every way, whether it's poetry, audio, books, however that you do that, how powerful and words are. It's almost as if words, well, I mean, in the Bible, it says in the beginning was the Word, right? So it's almost as if words are spirits of themselves, right? Do you believe that in some kind of way? I heard you say software earlier, so I'm just kind of like feeling this out. So,
well, no, I completely agree. I feel like words are elemental NRGs, elemental energies, and that they have a life and a power of their own. And the Bible says life and death are in the power of the tongue. And there are so many, I have a collection of statements about the power of words. So yes, I believe words are alive in an elemental way. And then once, a few years ago, I came across the word kotodama, a Japanese word that means word spirit. And when I saw it, there was a quotation from a Japanese author who was saying you have to be very honoring of words and the place that you give them to live in a sentence. Because yes, they are an energetic entity. They impact us, and we can feel so completely powerless in the face of what's going on in the world today. However, we are the 1% in consciousness. And when we recognize, or when we return back to the word, which we were raised to believe is the preeminent source of creation, and we take that article of faith as the basis for how we choose to speak and to write and to collectively evolve language, there's an opportunity to see what kind of powerful, positive difference we can make in the world. And just, you look at the word world, and it's all composed of word with the letter L included.
It's amazing. It's really amazing. And, it's mind-boggling too once you start looking at all of it and just seeing how powerful it truly is. And we're at the top of the hour here. We have to take our break because we're on a radio clock. Speaking of which, I want to thank KFSA News Talk and up in the Fort Smith area. And if all of you guys, if you haven't listened to the Fringe FM on the app, make sure you download the Fringe FM app. But you can also listen on Amazon Alexa, TalkStream Live, the Paranormal Radio app, TuneIn, etc. And support the network, share the network. We'll be right back.
Jose, a Northern California Piscean stuck in the Arizona desert. I'm a void walker, and I got the shoes to prove it. So what do I do when my soul yearns to delve deep into the realm of the unknown? I aim my satellite straight into the night sky and catch a smooth ride on the KTLK-DB radio waves. I tune into Lighting the Void with Joe Root on the Fringe FM.
Joe, Lighting the Void is the best show on the planet. This is Barney, your friend from Facebook. Thank you and all the crew for all you do. Namaste, my friend.
This is Macon from the foothills of North Carolina, and I am a void walker.
G'day, void walkers. This is Lily from down under Australia. The world may be small, the enigma is greater. So let your curiosity take you for a journey with Joe Root.
Hey, this is Fee, coming in from Central Maryland, and I am a void walker.
This is Kevin Doherty, a beginner void walker. I'm from Vancouver, BC. I know a little about a lot, and as Leonard Skinner said, I'll guess the rest. I learned a lot from Mr. Root in the show, and Heard it from the beginning. I knew right then he was going to be a new Art Bell. Thanks for all your shows and keep it up.
Hey, this is Derek from Mass, aka the Night Stalker, and I'm a Void Walker.
This is Mark from Chicago, and I walk the void to ascertain what is consciousness.
My name is Jared Johnson, and I'm from Humboldt County, California. I do not know all the answers to the questions about reality. I do not claim to know the ultimate truth about life. I seek that which has been made hidden as a part of a family of explorers of consciousness. I'm a Void Walker. Thanks, Joru.
This is Barbara Charlton from Metaphorical Archaeology. If you've ever had a traumatic paranormal experience, the effects of it may stay with you for years. Who do you talk to? You can't go to conventional help. What we do is we use emotional freedom techniques or tapping to actually neutralize the effects of that event. Maybe when you tell the story now, your heart races and your palms get sweaty. You don't even want to think about it because you don't know how to neutralize that. That's what EFT tapping does. It neutralizes those emotions. The circuit that was recorded on is gone. The energy flows freely and you're free of it. And that's what emotional freedom is all about. We offer this as a pro bono service, but this is something that I offer because no one, it seems, is helping people with these experiences. If you'd like to reach me, it's really easy. My cell phone is 214-995-3754. Please leave a message. I will get back to you as quickly as possible. Or you can email me, barb.eft@gmail.com. And EFT stands for Emotional Freedom Techniques. Reach out to me. It's confidential. This works. You won't believe the results.
Have you heard of heavy metals? Yeah! I'm not talking about the heavy metals in the junkyard. I'm talking about the heavy metals that build up in your body. Heavy metals in your body can make you feel sluggish, fatigued, and just plain off. Why not try Life Change Tea at GetTheTea.com? Cleansing your body and making you feel great. Cleansing the inside of your body of intruders that sneak their way into you and set up an intruder camp. Life Change Tea helps remove unwanted intruder camps. Brew it, steep it, and drink in the results. Tastes great, so you can create a new health habit. Our tea loves to help people. It just needs the chance. So order yours today by logging on to GetTheTea.com. That's GetTheTea.com. Our Life Change Super Strength Tea is waiting. This could be a beautiful relationship. Take charge of your health. Order at GetTheTea.com. That's GetTheTea.com.
The Fringe FM isn't just a radio station. We also provide services for all your audio production needs. If you are interested in live radio or pre-recorded podcasts, we're here to help. We even do audio enhancements and voiceovers if needed. If you want to do a podcast or live radio show and even want the option to syndicate on terrestrial radio, from simple audio file enhancement to live production and call screening, we have you covered. We have worked with some of the best professionals in the business in order to provide coaching instruction for content creation, show structure, and more. Contact The Fringe Digital Media for more at info@thefringe.fm. That's info@thefringe.fm, or call 501-777-5631 for a consultation.
From the Kingdom of Arkansas, you are listening to Joe Root and Lighting the Void, here on the Fringe FM.
All right, welcome back to Lighting the Void. We're here with our guest tonight, Laurel Airica. We're talking about the magic of words. Words do have power, more power than you know. Are words magic? Are the letters or words? Are they spirits themselves? You can go to her website at wordmagicglobal.com and check out a really cool website. And thank you again for coming on the broadcast. It's a pleasure having you here.
Oh, it's a delight, Joe. Thank you.
I noticed that you have a pretty extensive background, actually, more than what I spoke about. I mean, you got a master's in spiritual psychology, That's really
Yes.
cool. That's really cool. What kinds of things I'm just curious. I know it's an off the wall question, but what kinds of things did you study under that degree?
Well, it's a private university called University of Santa Monica. The program is a 2-year program that people fly in from all over the world for the weekend. It's no longer operating at that level, but it did for over 30 years. So I attended for 3 years, and you learned various psychological modalities and principles for healing your own issues and manifesting your visions. And many people then went on to go to the next level with their degree and to get the MFT and to do counseling. I had done quite a bit of psychic readings and intuitive counseling before that, and I used it again to up-level my awareness and liberate myself from limiting patterns. So that was that degree. Mhm. And the master's thesis, you had to create something that you had never done before. And I had always wanted to do a book of philosophy through wordplay. And whenever I would try, I would get a few puns deep, and then I could, it would be like at the nexus of many roads. I could go in so many directions, it got overwhelming. But with the structure they offered, I was able to create a book called We Do Come With Instructions, the ABCs of Self-Realization. And it's a book of philosophy about the hero's journey, the life journey. It almost got published by the people who did the Chicken Soup books.
Oh.
And then it didn't, which was a disappointment. However, it could have been used as a Bible for advertisers, because people are basically aware of, I think, 2 primary words that speak for themselves. One is dis-ease, and the other is his story. We see that these words are self-defining, and they're echoing and reflecting us back to ourselves, but they're generally assumed to be anomalous occurrences in the language. And what I've found is that they happen all the time, this kind of messaging that we're overlooking. Like, for instance, we talk about the fear being generated all the time now through the media,
Right.
but just the word atmosphere is atmosphere. And there's a nervous system. How do you have a calm nervous system? So the way we name things impacts the way we experience the world.
Oh, that's so
They
true.
generate feelings. And so this book, I was kind of glad We Do Come With Instructions wasn't published, because it could have been plundered to promote anything, instead of used judiciously to promote the best in ourselves, to really seek to reflect to people our own innate beauty and wisdom. And one of my favorite self-defining words is a word I was given in the same way that anyone can receive new understanding about words as well as new words. I was walking in a beautiful nature park, and I said to my invisible friends, "Give me a new word." And they instantly gave me the true significance of the word beautiful. And it is, again, a self-defining word. It is beautiful. And there's nothing more beautiful than a self-actualized individual.
Oh, wow. Yeah. That's pretty cool too, to think about that. Like, I was just thinking about when I go to the doctor and they say things like your nervous system, or
Yes.
that it's not just the understanding of what they're saying. The word itself causes you to feel a little nervous, or make you kind of feel like it could be out of control, if that makes sense. Right. I mean,
Oh, it does. Absolutely.
yeah.
And that goes on all the time in language. There's just dozens. I mean, I find new ones ever so often still, and I know that there are many that I haven't seen that others will see. And again, it says to me, this is software, it's programming, it's creating the lens through which we view the world. And Greg Braden has said we need a new neutral language and to evolve the language, and that this will give us an evolutionary edge. And Lynn McTaggart has said what we need is a new lens through which to view the world. And I have lots of statements like this. One of my favorites is from Terence McKenna, who talked a lot about words. And one of the things he said is, I somehow think that the forced evolution of language is how we're going to work our way back into taking care of our planet.
Oh, wow. Yeah. You know, Terence McKenna is somebody I love listening to talk to. And you have one of those kind of voices too, actually, that I think I could listen to forever. Right. So
thank you.
He talked about when he went into these spirit realms that these entities or beings or whatever you want to call them, how much love they made him feel, that they had their kind of own language and that they could create things. They were showing him that they were creating things from language and from expression. And they were trying to tell him to do it, just do it, like from your, almost like you already know it, it's there. And it was just and he would even do it, like Terence McKenna, he would even do the language and express what he kind of remembered or recalled from it. I thought it was fascinating, you know?
Well, it is. I quite agree. And he was so word lush and so wise. And I have other quotes of his, like, this one is related to some things that he said, but this one is by a British novelist named Lindsay Clark, who says, we're making the world out of language and story all the time. Therefore, the world is changing. Realists, of course, challenge this, but to be a realist often means simply settling for one of the meaner fictions of our times. So there is so much censorship going on today because of the desire on the part of the people in power to control the narrative. And because people are, I look at the word slogan, and it really is a slogan. And it's one that shoots ideas into our minds and carries earworms if there is music carrying the idea. And people can be programmed just by slogans.
Oh, sure.
So we were talking at the beginning about each one of us has a unique point of view, and our voice and our is only of value if we stay in tune with our own perspective. But it's very easy to get programmed by the language, by the culture, and by the manipulation and propaganda that comes through through language to see things in very limited, simplistic terms, and then to become the arms and legs of the ideas and the mouths of the ideas that have seized hold of us. So consciousness is all the more important, and becoming more fully aware and holding the intention of bringing out the best in ourselves and each other instead of the beast can make a tremendous difference personally and collectively.
So what about our names, right? Like, what if our names mean certain things, right? So we can look up what our names mean in several languages, and what if we don't like maybe the what they mean? You know, like, I wonder, should we should be able to change our names if we don't like what they mean, if they hold
I sure
certain
did.
terms, you know?
Yeah, mine, the name I was branded with, my name brand in in childhood, when I was in my mid-30s, I realized that many women by that time have had many last names, all belonging to men.
Mhm.
And I felt I needed to marry myself. And so my name is a creation that feels more vibrationally accurate than what was pasted on me. And I like when each person has their own sound, their own vibration. And yes, absolutely. Much harder to change your name now legally than it was when I did it. But I still think it's very important. And I love sharing. And it's a quick story of an encounter I had in the Rose Garden of Exposition Park in Los Angeles, where the museums are located. And I was in a gazebo, and there was a mother and two little girls and a little boy, all beautifully dressed. And they really liked my name. And I thanked them. And I said, "Do you really like your names?" And the little girls said, "Oh, yes, yes." And I said, "Well, if you were naming yourselves, are these the names you would have chosen for yourselves?" And the little girls were so trained to be obedient and polite. They just said yes. But the little boy said to me, "No, I would have called myself Soaring Eagle."
Oh, wow. That's amazing.
Isn't that gorgeous? And children know innately that we are so much more than our size, our shape, our skin color, our eye color, anything. And they naturally gravitate toward superheroes and fairy princesses. The idea, I mean, I think that's all they can find that matches their innate awareness of their spiritual beauty and power. And so they pretend to be superheroes or enchanted beings because they know we really are. And I look at the word infinite because it's a self-defining word. The infinite is infinite. So we are the place where the infinite invests itself in this form to express through the instruments of mind and voice and consciousness. And we can take it to the lowest note, but we can also take it to the highest note and continually evolve our capacity to become instruments of divine consciousness and to make powerful, positive contributions in the world that help elevate and accelerate the evolution of human consciousness. And if you operate by the pleasure principle, that's what to do to have the most exquisite sensations and experiences. And the other can be a discharge of negative energy in a very destructive way, but it ultimately really sentences us to a very benighted existence.
Absolutely. Yeah, man, I totally agree with that. Right. And thinking about the child saying soar and eagle, does that imply that reincarnation is a thing? Like he knows the spirit, or maybe he was a native to this country before and was a native person that belonged to a tribe, because that's how they called it themselves. They named themselves after, for the most part, what they were to themselves spiritually. I think that's really cool that the child said that.
Yeah, I thought it was so beautiful and profound. And I was once in a California mission, and they had pictures of the Native American people they were converting to their religion. And there was this picture of this very old man, and the caption said, "Yellow sky," before his conversion and baptism as Pablo.
Oh.
So here he was, the one and only yellow sky, and now he's one in millions and millions of Pablos. And I think it's fascinating that the word identity, which sounds sovereign and sacred, is nearly identical to the word identical. And creating identical identities like a flock of sheep or an army of ants is really, I think, what the pressure toward conformity, unity consciousness through conformity, so that many bodies are being operated by one governing agenda. I mean, that is what is going on one level, and yet this impulse toward unification between us, recognizing that we are all one and each other and part of the whole. And as each one of us cultivates our capacity to actualize our potential, and there's a little known word for actualized potential, which is entelechy, ENTELECHY, which means also the force within us towards self-actualization. It's the evolutionary impulse within us, and it gets so diverted into blind alleys that cause us to lose faith that who we are really is like soaring eagle as he envisioned himself, and whether it was from a past life or whether it was from just a sense of his own inner essence, I certainly couldn't say. But there's a very interesting word that for me, there's so many beautiful, obscure words that can increase our sense of human possibilities, except for the fact that they're lost or their definition is downgraded. And one of those words is anamnesis, ANAMNESIS, and it's the soul's memory of what it knew from past lives. But now it's used to mean a patient's medical history. So there's such a diminishment of the innate awareness that we are so much larger than this life. And I think it's a joke when people have trouble thinking that fairies might be real, the little people, because you just have to be in a low-flying airplane or a very tall building, and you see we live in this little tiny world.
Right. We're already kind of small, like Carl Sagan was talking about, compared to the universe. And you can see things like fractals, how it fractally goes infinite and finite, like you're talking about too. So
yes.
That's pretty interesting. I wonder what that means though when we decide what something means. For instance, I feel like there's a lot of power when 2 or 3 people are gathered, or what we call egregores, when enough people decide that something is real, therefore it gives it power. So if we take a word like you're talking about, what was it? Anamnesis? What did you say that word was?
Anamnesis.
Anamnesis. So we actually, as humans, believe it or not, have the power to change this word if enough of us came together and said, you know what, this is what that word really means, and we're going to take it back to its original thing. If enough people, it sounds maybe ludicrous to others, but maybe we should fight for what words mean so we can get our power back, right? I mean, because...
Yes, and just become aware of them. I mean, there's so many gorgeous words. 2 things I want to say about that. You talk about the egregore, the collective consciousness, and the entity that this creates. We have for so long affirmed going viral as the ultimate achievement of success on the internet, going viral. And yet now the whole world has gone viral.
For sure. Yeah.
And so what about calling it going spiral or going global? And similarly, when, in the time of Princess Diana, and people together, the egregore was chanting, "Princess die, princess die."
Yeah,
And
I didn't even think
princess
about
died.
that. Yeah.
Yeah. And I once heard, and people talk about on the stock market, making a killing in the market. And then, I mean, it's such violent terminology. And then during, I guess, the Iran-Iraq war, I heard, the news announcer was saying, well, that today there was a killing in the marketplace. So we have, and he was meaning it literally. So I think we need to become very aware of what these words are saying and the power we invest in them together to manifest into this three-dimensional reality.
Yeah.
And so I love finding gorgeous old words that have been, lost. And one of those words, people know the word omniscient, meaning all-knowing, and omnipotent, all-powerful, and omnipresent, present everywhere. And that's a description of the infinite. And a word that defines us as well is unknown, and that is omnificent. And that means possessing full creative power. So we possess full creative power as we speak and as we write, and all sorts of other ways in which we express ourselves. But we have been so dumbed down, and the language has been so degraded and was already a corrupted language, that we don't recognize that we have this full creative power. And sometimes people object and say, well, I'm not creative, but as a species, we've demonstrated that we have full destructive power. So what would happen if we chose to use this power we have creatively? And just let me just spell the word omnificent, OMNIFICENT. And I've never met anyone who knew the word, and yet it applies to us. So at the same time in 2010, when I posted the secret spells of the English language, that was to give a window into the problem that I saw with the language. But I also posted my word magic anthem, which is the solution, a vision of the solution. And that's called Taking Command of the English Language. And it talks about how we can do this creatively and how powerfully liberating it will be when we do.
Man, this is really some of the most interesting, thought-provoking stuff I've discussed in such a long time here on the broadcast. We're on our last break. We'll open up the phone lines too. If you want to call in and ask our guest a question, you can at 1-800-588-0335. We'll go ahead and take your calls. We'll get to your questions too. We're Lighting the Void coming up.
Hey, Fringe FM listeners, did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or no Wi-Fi available, you can still listen to every minute of the Fringe FM by calling 701-719-3971. No smartphone, app, or internet needed. Saves your data plan and no extra cost if you have unlimited minutes. Call 701-719-3971. That's 701-719-3971. Listen to the Fringe FM on any phone, anytime, anywhere.
AncientLifeOil.com. That's AncientLifeOil.com. Are you stressed? I mean, who isn't? Anxiety creeping in? No, not that. Is sleep hard to attain because your brain just won't slow down? We're living in crazy times, and the fear knob has been turned up. Okay, there's an answer. Take a big breath, exhale, and go log on to ancientlifeoil.com. CBD, broad and full spectrum, organic and non-GMO CBD for you to enjoy. Change your tune from fear to calm, from brain overload to clear thinking. 0.003 THC on full spectrum and 0% THC on broad spectrum. Competitive pricing with the best quality. Also know everything is going to get better. No worries, be happy. CBD can help calm so your nerves don't think they're a 6-string electric guitar. Enjoy life, smile, and log on to ancientlifeoil.com for great CBD. That's ancientlifeoil.com. You'll be glad you did.
Want to know what's on The Fringe FM? Check out our schedule at thefringe.fm.
Hola, Fringe listeners. This is Dave Cruz of Beyond the Strange, and you're listening to The Fringe FM.
This is Malorcas45, fan of the Fringe FM, challenging everyone to open their mind's eye. Listen to Lighting the Void with Joe Roop to gain precision for your third eye vision.
My name is Jake. I'm from Billings, Montana, and I am a void walker.
Hey, Joe Roop. Thanks for lighting the void. This is Janine in the bluegrass of Kentucky, and I am a void walker.
What's up, guys? This is Damien from San Marcos, Texas, and I'm a void walker. I listen to the show to keep myself aligned with the world.
Hi, this is Laura, aka Laura Lavender. I'm from Las Vegas, and I listen to Lighting the Void because it helps me understand some of the strangest experiences I've had. So thanks for all that you do and for always being there for us, Joe.
Hi, this is Kronox from Belgium, and you're listening to Lighting the Void with Joe Roop.
Hey, this is country music singer and void walker Jason Benoit, and when I need my fix on the world of magic and the capabilities of the human consciousness, I listen to Joe Roop right here on Lighting the Void Radio.
Born out of the alchemical tradition of Paracelsus is a medical tradition called Spagyria. Though not many people practice this work today, Phoenix Aurelius has been researching and teaching this work for the last 15 years, and he needs your support.
Hi, I'm Phoenix Aurelius, and I'm the founder of the Phoenix Aurelius Research Society, where I perform modern scientific research on the methods and techniques of Paracelsian alchemy and Spagyria for health, wellness, agriculture, ecology, and more. All my work is 100% funded by the public. So if you like what I'm doing and you want to support my research, please consider making a purchase of spagyric medicines from my apothecary, fund your own spagyric IDF wellness research, or participate in my group study or one-on-one immersion courses so that you can learn how to perform this work for yourself. I want to thank you in advance for your support.
Visit thefringe.fm/alchemy research and enter coupon code FRINGE and receive 15% off anything and everything on the website. That's thefringe.fm/alchemy research. And thank you for doing your part and keeping alchemy alive in the modern day.
All right, welcome back. 1-800-588-0335 is the call-in number if you want to call in and speak to our guest tonight here on Lighting the Void. Our guest tonight, fascinating. I mean, this is probably, like I said, one of the most fascinating discussions I've had in a long time because it has got me thinking about all kinds of stuff, actually, just in the words themselves. Laurel Airica is here with us, too, and you can go to the website at wordmagicglobal.com. And you should be able to get through. We have multiple lines here if you want to speak to our guest. Looks like we have a caller here on line 1678 area code. You're on the air. Who are we speaking with?
My name is Michael.
Hi, Michael.
I am, hey, I enjoy your show.
Fantastic.
And I'm a mystic guide and a vortex hunter.
Oh, wow. Very cool.
Yeah. Have you been in the mid of a vortex?
Not yet, but I'm heading out to Sedona, and shortly I'll probably know all about it. But do you have a question for our guest tonight?
Yes, I have a question. How in the many facets of people's beliefs, I always come to one conclusion and one question. How do you overcome death? How have you overcome death with your belief?
Can we
Well,
do
it's
that?
interesting. The word death anagrams into hated.
It had what?
And that's
what word?
If the same letters that spell death, if you rearrange them, they become the word hated.
Interesting.
And one of my little aphorisms.
Go ahead and finish. Sorry about that. Go ahead and finish what you were saying, Laurel.
Okay. One of my aphorisms is that dying is like changing color. Changing colors. It's just that we become transparent. So in terms of overcoming death, essentially it's a death of the body, but the being is eternal. And people say, you can't get out of here alive, but I think we're meant to become more alive. The aliveness we have as children, we can continue to cultivate and expand that and have a conscious transition. So I don't know if that's the answer you're seeking or whether you have an answer that you want to share with us. But anyway, that's my top of the head response.
What is it that remains conscious?
The inner being, the soul essence, in my belief system.
The soul. Okay. So you believe the soul is immortal.
Yeah, I do.
You believe the soul is immortal.
Uh-huh.
Why are you asking this, Mike?
Because I study the scriptures, and the scriptures indicate that the soul is not immortal. And most people do not differentiate between the soul and the spirit. It's the spirit that's eternal, and we're not born with spirit. We have to become spirit by our belief system. So our soul, according to scripture, the soul life is nefesh kai, which God breathed into Adam. And that nefesh kai, that soul life, is what animated him, gave him life, gives us life. It gives you your personality. It is what gives you yourself. It's what gives you your life. And it's basically, quite frankly, I believe science has seen or discovered soul life in the DNA, because Leviticus says the soul life is in the blood. And it comes down to being in really our DNA. It's passed down to the seed. And the soul life, it says throughout Scripture, has no consciousness, has no memory, has no life after you give up your last breath. But it's the spirit that gives us eternity and eternal life.
A lot of people define soul and spirit in different ways, but that's not really my area of expertise. So maybe let's put it to rest for the moment.
Yeah. Thanks for your call, Mike. Interesting stuff too. I appreciate you calling. So the thing about that too here that I will say about any of that stuff is when it comes to scripture and things like that, I think our guest is studying how effective, how magical, and her beliefs and theories on words too. But I think to assume, and this is just my opinion, to assume that we know the answers based on any one book is, to me, is highly illogical, because a lot of these scriptures, even though the words are beautiful and the scriptures are magical and beautiful, there's so many things left out and are written by several different men under several different influences, whatever you want to call it. But to me, to pretend like that we know the answers to all this stuff is highly illogical. There's so much to learn about the universe still. So, let's see, 786 area code. You're on the air. Who are we speaking with?
Hey, Joe, it's Hope. How are you?
Hey, Hope. What's going on?
Not much. Hi, Laurel. I am truly fascinated with your take on things, and I have a ton of questions, but I'll keep it to like one or two. One of the things I was thinking as far as language and all of that is concerned is, the evolution of language and our change in vernacular just in the last, couple of generations. Like my grandparents were the greatest generation and like the golden age of Hollywood. And when you watch the old movies and you see how they spoke and how the vernacular was back then as compared to how it's changed through the 60s and the boomers and then my generation, Generation X, and now we're going into the millennials. And it seems that we're kind of going back to using a lot of symbology with things like emojis and memes. What is your take on all of that?
Well, I'm looking for something. Thank you, Hope, for your question. I was friends with, if you've ever seen the book, The Alphabet versus the Goddess by Dr. Leonard
We have
Schlein.
it. Yes, we have it.
He and I were friends when he was writing it, and I got to read it in manuscript form. So his take about how that we are now going back to kind of a right brain focus. So it's like a post-literate world. So there's the tattooing like tribal people and the imagery. So I think that's one part of it. There's also, let's see, what was I looking at? There's also the intentional debasement of the culture. And when I heard that word and I played with it and I wrote it, debasement is such a self-revealing word. It's taking things back down to the basement rather than the penthouse. And I wrote it out, debasement of the culture, D''KULTUR. And I decided to look that up because it sounded familiar to me. And I found that this was referred to, culture, KULTUR, was German civilization and culture, sometimes used derogatorily to suggest elements of racism, authoritarianism, or militarism. So I think there is this intentional debasement. And loss of language is loss of the ability to think about things and to communicate about them. I have a beautiful statement by the Greek playwright Aristophanes saying, high thoughts require high language. So when there's so many words that are being lost or redefined, we're losing our ability to think about things in a more elevated way. And I've written quite a number of essays around obscure words. And the first I wrote is called A Walk in the Woods. And it begins, I am a nemophilist and a philocalist, and you likely are as well. A nemophilist is someone who appreciates the beauty and solitude of the forest, and a philocalist is someone who appreciates the good, the beautiful, and the noble in general. So when we don't know those words, we can't even consider that appreciation for elevated thought and culture is within us, and yet we have no word for it, so cannot contemplate it. So yeah, I think that's going on. I also have a friend, Jeffrey Armstrong, who is a Vedic scholar and astrologer, and just came out with a new translation of the Bhagavad-Gita by someone who is not only fluent in English, but Sanskrit as well, and knows that you cannot do a word for word translation. You can't call the Atma a soul, because Atma means so much more than all the heavy laden connotations on soul. And he explained to me that while language has changed over the generations and the centuries so that we could hardly recognize it, if we heard Old English or Middle English. He said Sanskrit is like mathematics. It's very precise, and it's the same language that was spoken 5,000 years ago that's still in use today. So there has been this process of linguistic drift in which words are debased or lost. And so my focus has been about how can we bring these beautiful words back into circulation that will inspire the beauty in our own being when there's so much coming at us that is inspiring fear and greed and animosity, and yet as human instruments, as the infinite in finite form, we are innately divine and beautiful. And so I look to create what I call a new word ardor, a new passion for words that can help us elevate the conversation and evolve the word to evolve the world. So thank you for your question. I hope this answer was satisfactory for you, Hope.
Oh, it was wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thanks for your call,
My
Hope.
pleasure. Please go. I meant to mention I have classes. I have writing circles, and I also teach word magic classes. So if you go to the website and sign up, you'll be informed, and you can play with us.
Oh.
So thank you.
Thank you so much.
All right.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Thanks for your call, Hope. Good question. So I have a question too. When it comes to words, right? Where does the spirit of the word start to come into play? Is it from the letters? Is it from the history of the word? Is it from the egregore of how the word is used? Because if you go back and you look into like words, then eventually it goes back to symbols, and then it goes all the way back to cuneiform, where it's, so I'm wondering where the magic kind of developed for words and the steps, so to speak.
Well, it's all vibration. And so I think just by speaking that there is that vibrational resonance, and in terms of its history and the symbols that compose it, and the energy with which it's spoken, all of those are elements in the mix. So I don't have the knowledge and wisdom to be able to separate those elements and discuss them intelligently.
Sure.
I'm just working with what I hear and see and feel in them today.
Wow. So if enough of us agree on a word, though, that gives its power, you would think, right? Like what we were talking about earlier.
Definitely adds to it. Yeah. And gosh, there was a word that popped into my head a bit ago. My gosh. But anyway, it's popped out again. They do fly around. I mean, they're so alive. I feel like a word whisperer because they whisper their secrets to me, and they will to anybody. And I also feel like an English language elemental. The beginning my journey with words so very, very early is such an indication to me that I came here for this purpose, and that I came, with anamnesis. There's the recollection of what I knew, which is from a prior life, which is why I thought I knew all the words in the English language when I was 3 or 4. And so anyway, I can go on in any direction, but I want people to have an opportunity to speak if they wish.
Sure, yeah. There's a question in the chat from Little Red. She's asking, is there a difference between speaking out loud and speaking words in your head? I would say effectively there's probably a difference, but magically I'm not sure. What do you think?
Well, I think we give words power through our speaking. So each word has the power of prayer. It's an invocation. So I think, yes, it has a power. I know my thoughts have the power to affect my feelings, and that affects my behavior, and it either adds to my energy or diminishes it. So yeah, we're programmed through words, and they're running through our mind all the time. So, but yes, speaking with intention and out loud can have a very powerful effect too.
When you go around in everyday life, Laurel, what is the one thing that you think we do as people? Maybe a phrase that we say or something that we do when it comes to language and communication that probably, I would say, hurts us the most, keeps us from evolving. What do you think that is?
Well, I think the language itself is both a prism, the lens through which we view, and a prison. I think the big thing is a lack of awareness, and I'm certainly aware of hidden meanings, and that I have a little blog called The Mean Meaning of Mean, because mean means all sorts of other things like shabby, cruel, and average. Also shooting off our mouths, swearing. I mean, it's trash talking. That means you've got trash in your mouth. Cursing other people. It's like everything is a boomerang effect. So and I'm getting such support where I'm living now. With a wonderful couple, Ann and Peter Selby, and their website is youangelyou.com, youangelyou.com. And they do clairvoyant readings and angel healings, and they help me become more conscious of the negativity, the self-diminishment that I may speak. So as is said, we teach what we need to learn. So I think all of those things, the negative thinking, the negative projections, speaking ugly when we could be speaking beauty, I think all of that has an impact.
Yeah, I totally agree with you on that. And sometimes I wish I could go back into my past and change some of the things that I've said. But the cool thing is though that we becoming aware of it is empowering in itself, you know.
It is. And I love a statement Reverend Michael would say often, Reverend Michael Beckwith, that he says, call it all good, and that everything works together for good for those who love God. Now, whatever God means to you, great power, higher intelligence, whatever. But looking to live that more fully means that all those past mistakes come together to create a new reality that's very positive.
Absolutely. I'm totally with you on that too. And now I know that you do events. I really admire what you're doing. So the fact that you spent time with us here on Late Night Radio is really cool too. So please, by all means, if there's any links or anything that I have not given out that you provide, please, by all means, do so.
Thank you. Well, I'll just add my Patreon site, which is patreon.com /wordmagicglobal. And I think in the middle of June, I'll have the Esoterica poem animated. And it's very fun and very awakening. And I'm going to ask for $10 donations for the preview viewings in order to help me defray the costs of getting it animated. And then subsequently, there'll be an illustrated book. So just make sure you're signed up on the website so you receive announcements, and Patreon site, and become part of this new word ardor and classes, which you'll find out on the website about.
Fantastic.
Thank you, everybody.
Yeah, you're very welcome. Thank you for coming on the program. And the website is wordmagicglobal.com. Awesome show tonight, you guys. We're going to get out of here. Ryan Gable's coming up next with the Secret Teachings. We'll see you guys tomorrow night, same time, same channel, right here on the Fringe FM. Good night, guys, and sweet dreams. Oh, wow. I loved it. Thank you.